All right, so we are live. Um, and as people start to come on, or even if they don't come on and they just kind of watch this, because I'm probably going to have it up as a replay. Um, if you don't mind, Heather, if you're okay with that, let me
I'm
begin.
totally fine.
But for anybody who's curious about what I'm doing now, for about the last 3 years, probably, I've thought about a way to kind of process the grief of losing my dad. And I thought about, writing a book about him, which I still think I'm going to do. Um, just having like a journal with just like chapters about his life. And I know that people get tired of seeing me post about my dad. I know people who are very close to me, they get tired of hearing me talk about my dad. And so it's bittersweet that God has put women in my life who are sharing that same experience of having lost their fathers, who were pinnacle, like, in their development into the women that they are today. And so I started thinking about, having conversations with these women to kind of learn about their fathers, because at the end of it all, everybody is really just a story that somebody has to keep telling, right?
Mhm.
So nobody can tell a story about somebody better than somebody who really knew that person. And how you knew that person, of course, is going to dictate your perception of the person and the story that you tell about them. But for all intents and purposes, for what I'm trying to do and try to help other people do, I guess, is to share our father's stories. What made them great? What made them so inspirational to us? Like, why is their loss so devastating? I'm 53 years old and you know, miss my dad like I was five. So until you go through it, there really are not words for it. But tonight, my friend Heather, who we've never met in person, we've just been virtual friends for like a couple of years.
Mhm.
Um, she sadly lost her dad about how long ago was it?
It was November of 2022,
Okay, so
so it'll
not
be
long ago.
about 18 months ago.
Yeah. So she and I have been communicating. And while some people get frustrated about the posts that I put up about Daddy, there are people who reach out to me and, kind of make that connection. And I don't remember how we started talking about it. But Heather has agreed to be my inaugural interview, my first person. So I'm thinking about doing a podcast called My Father, My Hero. And she is going to share her story or share with us the things that she wants us to know about her father tonight. Um, and, if you happen to come across our conversation in our video and you don't want to watch it, you can keep scrolling. Or you can tune in and maybe learn something about somebody who was very important in somebody's life. And so, Heather, I'm just going to turn the time over to you. I know it's an evening and I don't want to infringe upon too much of your time, but you just talk about like who your dad was and what you want us to know about him.
Well, I get emotional talking about my dad. It's just, I'll start out saying that I am a very emotional person, especially when I'm talking about something passionate. And of course, my dad is something that I care, of course, care deeply about, but I'm very passionate. And kind of in his later years, I was kind of very protective of my dad. And so if I will probably start blubbering,
All right.
but it's fine. I'm going, and I know it goes for a long time. I'm going through like the cycle of grief, and it's still very fresh and very raw. But my dad, um I get I guess I'll start out. My dad was one of four. He was the first boy of, so they had two girls and then two boys. And so my dad was the first son of, my grandfather worked on military bases as a contractor doing mechanic work. And my grandmother was a stay-at-home mom. I mean, up until she passed away, she always stayed at home, took care of the kids. And so my dad was, the first boy. So, and my dad was born in 1944. So that was, part of the World War II and coming out of that and, going into just a lot of things going on. And my dad was a very chill person. Nothing really ruffled his feathers he was very chill. But he was fiercely protective, especially of my uncle. My uncle, his brother, is the baby of all four of them, of course. And he was fiercely protective of his siblings. And you did not do anything again. His brother did no wrong, even though I know his brother was kind of he was a little ornery in his his younger years, but in my dad's eyes, don't mess with his brother. He will get you.
Where did they grow up? Where were they raised?
My dad was born right outside of Killeen.
Mm-hmm.
And so near what was Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. And they moved to California. My grandmother came from a farming family, so they left Texas and moved to California to the family farm. Nice. And then they moved back to Texas. And it's actually kind of funny. After they moved back to the Houston area, my mom and her family moved, I want to say about between 2 and 4 houses down from my dad and his family.
Wow.
So my mom was kind of like the girl next door. And this is funny because my dad actually wanted to date my aunt, which is my mom's older sister. And he actually thought that my mom was my aunt. It was kind of like a reversal there. But this is actually kind of comical. What ended up happening is that the 2 brothers married the 2 sisters.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's my cousins are, matter of fact, I did do the ancestry DNA, and one of my cousins is closer in DNA and than my own sister.
Wow.
So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. But yeah, and after my dad graduated, I guess it was 2 years after he graduated, he joined the Air Force. Okay. And he did basic at Lackland Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. And after he went to basic and did his schooling, he was stationed at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico.
Oh, nice.
And my dad loved New Mexico. He loved it. Matter of fact, he always said that he wanted to be cremated, and he wanted his ashes to be spread in New Mexico because he loved it so much. And I'm like, Dad, but that's far away. Why would you want to do that? He says, because it's a family trip for you guys.
Oh, that's nice.
And so even after, he was always thinking about us even after. We haven't done that just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Will be planned to do, but
you are going to sprinkle his ashes down there?
We're going to do it.
Nice.
So, but yeah, and it's funny. I always asked my dad, so Dad, what did you do in the Air Force? What did you do in the Air Force? And he told me, this is funny because after everything, things, he said, oh, I worked on planes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then when I got to be like a teenager, it's like he was preparing me for what he actually did do.
What did he do?
He was in special forces.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Hmm. And I did not find, I was 45 when my dad passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I did not find out that he was special forces until the day after he passed away.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking you
Yeah.
were gonna say he worked with like Area 51, like in Roswell or something. Well, they may have had some kind of duty with that though.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the Air Force Special Operations do, but
Yeah.
nice.
He was special forces and he took that. There was only two people that knew,
Mm-hmm.
besides the people that he worked in with the Air Force and stuff. There was only two people that knew what he did, his younger brother and a really good friend of theirs.
So your mom didn't even know.
My mom didn't even know.
Wow.
My mom did not even know. And we always thought, she said, I kind of heard something about it, but I really wasn't, you know, didn't think too much about it. And, but yeah, he took that when they said, you do not talk about this for
He didn't
50
talk about it.
years. He did not talk about it.
Yeah, it was a different world. People
Yes,
take
it
their
is.
word and their oath.
Yes. And he took that very seriously.
Very cool.
And I mean, my dad was, that's the way my dad was. He was very loyal. Even if he was being treated wrong, he was very loyal. I mean, his job, even with jobs that he did, he was very loyal. If you hired him to do a job, he was going to do that job to his best of ability. And he was going to be loyal to you.
So did he retire from the army or from the Air Force or no? Did he go to Vietnam?
No, he did not. He did. My understanding is he did do some, because he was a draftsman doing special forces. So he did do some designs for Vietnam,
Nice.
but he never went to Vietnam.
That's
And matter of fact, my mom and I were talking about that yesterday as to, because he, through moves and stuff, his DD 214 had gotten lost. So we requested it after he passed away. And he was, matter of fact, I have it right here. He was got out like in 1971. And when he left the Air Force, he was a sergeant.
nice.
So he went in in 1965, and his official where he could not be recalled was 1971.
Nice.
And
Did you get everything situated with his military funeral? Were you able to get all that done?
no, he did not get the military funeral because evidently in the Houston area, there is only one honor guard.
Oh wow.
I am totally shocked by that because of how, I mean,
How many military installations are
around, plus we just so large of an area. And so we did not do that. But looking back, it was probably for the best. My dad, as much as I wanted that for him, I don't think he would have wanted that.
Okay.
Because he even telling him, Dad, why don't you sign up for the VA? No, the military doesn't owe me anything.
Oh.
I don't owe. They do not owe me anything. I am not. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do it. So yeah, he never even signed up for VA benefits.
Oh,
And which, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of, for my mom, it's kind of, a little that, because she
but
could,
that generation, not to interrupt you, because he was 2 years older than my parents, because they were born in 1946. But that generation had a different sense of pride, and they didn't have a sense of entitlement.
no.
So, you know what I mean? Men were different, and like they viewed certain things as more of a handout, and they just had a different level of pride. Not that VA benefits at all are a handout, but still the mentality is I'm too proud to do XYZ. You know, I can still do
Yes.
stuff. So that's probably not uncommon.
No, and that was my dad. No, I will, before, he was very proud.
Mm-hmm.
And most of his life, he worked 2 jobs.
Wow.
Just for us to have a better life, and for to have, what we needed. He worked 2 jobs, and that was him. We're not going to ask anybody for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I will go out and I will get another job.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my mom worked, our entire, I mean, she still works now.
Mm-hmm.
And but she also did, the picking up from school, and all of those things. And my dad's like, nope, if I have to work on Saturday and Sunday, which were his normal days off, I'm going to work on Saturday and Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's what he did when we were younger. And that's where I think I saw that my entire life. My dad was just, I'm gonna work to provide for my family. I'm going to be very, he had a very strong work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
If he called in to work sick,
Mm-hmm.
you might want to check and make sure he was okay,
Mm-hmm.
because he did not call into work at all.
Oh.
And they actually would have to make him take vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, of course, that a lot of times it was, and I think a lot of still now, you take it by that end of the year or you're going to lose it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, come November, December, they were telling him, you need to take your 2 weeks off. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to lose that.
Yep.
And that's the way he went. I mean, he had to be forced to take time off. We really didn't go on summer vacations or anything, because my dad's like, I have to work. I have to work. I have to provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I saw that my entire life. And so when, with teaching, I just threw myself into it, and, was like, okay, I'm going to be the best teacher I can be.
Mm-hmm.
And because I saw that my entire life, I'm not going to do anything halfway, because that's not how I was raised. And I think my husband probably gets very irritated at me because I am a perfectionist and I don't do anything halfway. I have to do,
You have to be true to yourself.
I'm very like type A, like.
Mm-hmm. Are you the oldest child?
I'm the youngest.
Oh, how many siblings?
I have 2. It's my sister and I, so 2 girls. My dad, matter of fact, Bobby said the other day, it's like, Mom, Papa was a girl dad.
Oh.
And it's like, that I never really thought of that. Yes, he was. Was until the grandkids came along that he had grandsons.
Oh.
But yeah, he was a girl dad, and my dad was very, until you got to know him, he was very like reserved, He didn't. It wasn't until he was older that he talked to everybody. I mean, anybody in the grocery store that would listen to him and talk to him, he would talk to. But when he was younger, he was very reserved and he didn't, have a lot. He didn't talk to a lot of people. He didn't, he might, as he was working or something, may have like a conversation here and there. But after, even like neighbors, when we were growing up, we lived on a cul-de-sac, and it was, he didn't really, you weren't going to see my dad outside chatting with the other dads, because that's just not what he did.
He had a military background. He was probably still very observant, and part of it, I think, was their generation.
Yeah.
They just didn't have a lot of time for chit chat, and they were focused.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very much so. He was
very familiar. Yes.
Yeah, he was very focused, and a funny story that my aunt told when after my dad had passed away. My aunt and uncle, they were dating, and they went to pick my dad up at the airport. He was home. He was still in the Air Force. He was coming home on leave. And he said, "Oh, I brought you a present." And it's just like, why would he bring me a present? That's, that.
Not him.
Well, he had bought in the airport in New Mexico perfume, and he was going to give it to somebody he was dating, but she didn't meet him at the airport, so he gave it to my aunt.
Funny.
And so, yeah, that was just.
Did he tell her that? Or
afterwards, he told her that.
He's like, "Well, here, this is my ride. Didn't show up, so you're my ride. Thanks for the ride."
Yeah, you're my ride. Here's the perfume.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. So I wanted to ask you, so you say that you were a perfectionist because you watched your father's example.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that you found yourself, were you ever in the mindset of like, I really want to make my dad proud?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Very much so. And my dad wasn't one that said, "I'm proud of you." And it wasn't until, I would say, about 2 years before he passed away, that he said, "I'm proud of the wife and mother you are." And that just, because I do. I'm full force, and Bobby is the youngest grandchild. And so, yeah, it made me feel good when he said that, and it made me like, okay, and I told him, I said, "Dad, I did, because you are the way you are. You were a great dad. You're an outstanding grandfather. And that's all I ever wanted to do, was to make you proud." And I think that's what, all little girls, and all, even boys, want to make their moms, their dads proud. And that's hearing those words, though, I probably went home and cried afterwards, because I didn't want to cry in front of my dad. But and anytime, because my dad, unfortunately, it kind of started, and he had a massive heart attack at church
Oh, wow.
in January of 2003. I wasn't married yet. And so he had a massive heart attack at church. And he ended up having triple bypass surgery. And it was we were told that he would never live the life that he lived before
Oh.
because there was just so much damage done. And then they were like, he's never going to work again. And my mom and I are looking at each other going, but how is this going to play a part? Yes, we're super thankful that he's gonna make it and he's going to, be with us. But how is he going to feel with that? And so after everything, after he had his bypass surgery and he was in
Cardiac rehab.
he was even in cardiac ICU for a couple of days. The cardiac surgeon, he came out and he said, everything we talked about before, we're over that. Everything's going to be okay. And it was after that, my dad pushed and pushed and pushed, and he did the cardiac rehab, and he ended up working for another, I want to say, until probably another 15 years.
Wow.
And granted, yes, he did have other issues that he ended up having to have a pacemaker defibrillator put in and things like that. But he pushed through, and that was my dad. And we said he went through so much and had so many issues with after his heart attack and things, but he was we said he was so hard-headed and so stubborn that that's what helped him make it, push through. And so after that, I was like, oh my goodness. Mind you, my sister was married, but they were married at the justice. She had a justice of the peace marriage, and so my dad wasn't even there. My dad was working. He wasn't even there when they got married. And so I was like, oh, my dad needs to walk one of his daughters down the aisle. And I was like, I hadn't even, marriage was like, I'm not going to get married right now. I was in my late 20s. I was like, no, not going to do this right now. But I started like, he has to. It kind of put it in my head that I needed to get married. I wanted that for my dad to walk, because all fathers want to walk their, that's like a special thing to walk their daughters down the aisle. And so I kind of, my dad never said anything. And everybody was always, she's not going to get married until she's much older. And then I think it was like 2 years later, 2 years later, I ended up getting married. And my dad walked me down the aisle. That was super important to me, of course, for my dad to walk me down the aisle. But what was even better, my dad was there and helped through every aspect of planning my wedding.
Wonderful.
He picked my wedding dress out.
Aww.
And we went and shopped for wedding dresses, and that's like a core memory for me that I will never forget, is him picking out dresses. And like, well, try this one on, try this one on. And I never thought my dad would be that type of, but no, he was there, and he even said, and it was kind of funny, he even said, we need to take a picture of you in these dresses so we can make sure that that is the dress you want. And he did. Every dress I tried on, he took a picture. And of course, back then it was before really the digital.
You had to drop it off and get it.
Yeah, there was a Walgreens next door, and we took them over to the Walgreens that was next door from the bridal shop, and so yeah, he picked my wedding dress out, and so that would.
Do you think after he had his heart attack, did you see a change? Is that when he kind of pivoted and got softer, and maybe was a little bit more like that experience kind of made his mortality real, and he knew he would not always be there? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I really think so. And then as the years went on, and even the last like 5 years, it was like he got this thought in his head that he was almost like, I'm going to be fine. And there's nothing even, unfortunately.
I'm going to be here.
Yes, I'm going to be here forever.
Yep.
Which I don't, my grandfather, his dad passed away at 77. My grandmother, though, was 100.5.
Wow.
It was his mom, 100.5 to the day.
Wow.
And so I don't know if he had that stuck, because he was 78 when he passed away. So he made it a year after his dad. But, and looking back, I could see the decline of my dad. And at times he would get frustrated. And because he was so independent and did not want to depend on anybody to help him. He did not want anybody to help him. Granted, unfortunately, because he was like that, he did fall several times because he wouldn't wait for help, or in one particular, matter of fact, it was 2 weeks before my dad passed away. I had Bobby and Zach's wife, which is the one that's in the army, the grandson that's in the army. And my dad, we were all going to have lunch, and my dad loved Chick-fil-A. And he loved Chick-fil-A. And then we were going to go to Walmart. And so I said, okay, Dad, wait just a minute. I had put my car in the garage, so it'd be easier for him to go down the little ramp. And I said, hold on, Dad. I need to run and use the restroom, and I will help you get out of the house into the garage and get in the car. No. He got his little walker and he proceeded to go into the garage, and he got right towards the ramp and he fell. Aww. And so yeah, he was Mr. Independent. I'm gonna do it on my own. And I said, Dad, why didn't you wait for me? I told you I just had to use the bathroom before we left. And yeah,
was he hurt, or he was just startled from that?
I think he was just sore.
Mhm.
because being an older the older person, the elasticity in the skin. So of course he had a bruise on his elbow for fall, because he was trying to break his fall.
Mhm.
And
And his pride was probably hurt too.
his pride. And because and I don't see how he didn't really hurt himself, because when I came out, it was like he fell on his
Concrete.
on concrete on his rear end.
Mhm.
So I don't see how he didn't hurt his tailbone or anything like that. And
Even then, though, when he was like that, did you still, in your mind, believe that he's going to be here for a while?
I did. I did. I really did. And even is he Bobby graduated in May of 2022. And I can't remember if he got out of the hospital the day of Bobby's graduation or the day before Bobby's graduation. I want to say it was the day before Bobby's graduation. But, and even he had been in the hospital because he had some bleeding, and they did not know where it was coming from. And so and it was a good thing I knew somebody that worked for EMS.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately that day, and it was the day of Bobby's prom, that he ended up going to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just kind of in a daze almost. And even then though, I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
they figured it out and he's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from May going towards November, the decline kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
But I still thought, oh, it's just a bad day. He'll be okay.
And did you get to see him pretty much every day? Where he was local to you, that he
Yeah,
was okay.
he was like 10 minutes from me.
Nice.
So yeah,
You got to see him every day.
and unfortunately though, with teaching and then having one as with the senior in high school, it was a little difficult
Mm-hmm.
to go, because we all have our stuff, but I saw him at least every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And
And he was
but
still working, and or he was done working.
my dad retired twice. So after his heart attack, he went back to work. He didn't do the same thing. For many years, my dad worked for back then it was called Borden's Ice Cream.
Oh
So
yeah,
he did deliveries for them, and
yeah.
then he did deliveries for I'm trying to remember the name. It was an automotive parts place. And so he did things like that. And then he started working for the same company my mom did. He got laid off there, and he stopped. After he was laid off, he stopped working. Well, of course, true fashion of my dad, he got bored. So
Mm-hmm.
what does he do? He goes to work for Kroger.
Good for him.
And he worked for Kroger, and I want to say it was 2017.
Mm-hmm.
He had kidney stones,
Oh.
and because he had a pacemaker defibrillator, they could not do the removal of the kidney stones as they normally would do. So they had to do surgery.
Uh-huh.
Well, after the surgery, he developed pneumonia.
Oh.
And then it turned into what they thought was antibiotic resistant pneumonia.
Ooh.
Well, then it turned, as they're going through trying to figure out, after all putting him on all these antibiotics, I mean, he was in ICU because his oxygen level was going down. They couldn't figure out why. And I mean, he was really, again, I really thought we were going to lose him then, because he just was not, he
Coming out
was
of it.
just not coming out of it. They ended up doing, they had to call a rapid response because he had tried to get up from the bed to go to the bathroom, and his oxygen level dropped to like the 40s or 30s or 40s. And so then they said, okay, we've got to sedate him. And they put like the big oxygen, they call it a BiPAP, I think it was, like this
Kind of a
big,
CPAP, like a CPAP machine.
yeah, but it was like, it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not want him talking. They wanted all oxygen to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it wasn't for the pharmacist at the hospital going through every one of his medications, they finally figured out what it was. One of his medications that he was put on after he had his heart attack, being on it for long term causes lung damage.
Oh no.
So that's what had caused, and I guess having the surgery and being intubated
Even more.
weakened it and made it so he unfortunately had to leave the hospital with oxygen. And he went off of oxygen, and everybody always asked, was your dad a smoker, or is that why? And my dad never smoked. Never. I mean, that was no. And everybody was always asked that because, that's what, yeah, because of the oxygen. No, it was because of the lung damage. And it ended up that he had scarring on all over his lungs. So then that made it even worse, putting, not only now did he have heart issues, but he had lung issues. So that made it even worse. But I will say he had an amazing team of doctors, and they all worked together very well. There wasn't one that was like, well, we're going to do this, and the other doctor saying, no, we're not. And they all worked and communicated very well together. He had an amazing, care team, really. And matter of fact, one of his doctors before my dad passed away, I saw in Buc-ee's.
Oh.
And I looked at him, he looked at me, and he's like, how's your dad doing? And so, yeah, it was, he had an amazing.
That's Darius.
Oh, hi, buddy.
Come around and say hi real quick to Miss Heather. She lives down by that's Leilani, and then Darius.
Hi.
The infamous Darius.
Hi, Darius. I hear so much about you.
She teaches first grade.
Where?
We'll have to talk offline about
yes.
It ramped up even more. I wanted to ask you because I know we only have a few minutes left, but so when your father did pass away, was he at home? Was he like active? Everything was okay? I don't know if you want to revisit that or what happened or.
Yeah, he had that weekend. My mom, matter of fact, it was Veterans Day weekend, and they he said, "Hey, let's go get a haircut because it's Veterans Day and they'll probably give it to me for free." And yeah, that because that's this little barber shop that he went to. They would give like veteran discounts, and if it was around Veterans Day, they would give haircuts for free. And so they did that. And at the time, Zach's wife was living with my parents, and so they had gone to eat like Friday night. I had something at school that Friday night, so I kind of didn't we really didn't that weekend didn't communicate a whole lot. And as I was busy doing school stuff, and then he my mom said he just kind of seemed off Saturday. And so but they woke up Sunday morning and they were getting ready to go to church, because that's one thing my dad was very big. His faith was very important to him. He rarely missed going to church on Sundays. That was something that was very important to him. And so my mom was, because by that time he was starting to have knee issues and his legs were weak, so he really depended on a walker, and then if it was longer, it was a wheelchair. And so they were getting up to get ready for church. My mom was going to help him into the bathroom, and he said he was kind of moving around and everything, and he says, "I can't breathe." And my mom says, "Do you need me to?" Because he kind of up and down with the oxygen. Well, by that time he was back dependent on oxygen, and he says, "I can't breathe." And my mom's like, "Well, do you need me to just cut up the oxygen a little bit?" And he says, "I don't know. I need help. I need help. You need to get help." And she's like, "Well, what do you want?" "I just need help." And he just kind of laid back in bed and passed away. His defibrillator was going off, and Jessica, Zach's wife, I mean, she's, poor thing, was not even 20 years old, doing CPR on my dad until the paramedics could get there. And my mom's calling me in a panic. I didn't know. I mean, I thought, okay, what do I need to do? And they did transport him to the hospital, so they didn't have to have like the coroner and all of that, them to come to the house. But and they did still try to, at the hospital, do CPR. And it was basically a heart attack that took him. And I think that whole doing the memorial service for my dad, I never thought I would have to write an obituary. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And they said, only make it so long. And I'm like, how can I say what my dad means to this whole, his whole life in this amount of time, this, little space. How can I do that? Because I was like, I want to say what his grandkids meant to him, what his, just everything. And that was like, I couldn't figure out how to make his life condensed when his life was like this.
Yep.
And that was the hardest thing to do. And to
Keep going.
keep going and the whole time it's still kind of a blur. And I know, as you said at the beginning, I know people get irritated at me because it's like every 13th, because my dad passed on November 13th at 2022, and I know the 13th of the month I'll post something, even it's kind of my own look back too, especially on Facebook. It's my own look back at how much I've survived and how my grief has kind of changed or gone different directions. But I know people get irritated, but I'm going to be unapologetic about it because it's my journey. And everybody has their own, and everybody deals with grief differently.
Yep.
And
it'll come out of nowhere. You think you're doing better, and then just like at a stoplight, it's just like all of a sudden, like you're just overwhelmed with all these emotions. And I'm like, what is that? Because it's still not processing for me. And that's why I said, people can't put a time limit on it.
No. And I've done grief counseling. I've done there's I want to say it's a 7-week thing about grief. And I've done that, and it's so different things. And this week, actually, I was telling Bill Friday night, I said this week has been really bad for my grief. And I felt like I was doing fine, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Do you think it's because you were thinking about doing this with me?
Actually, no, because I was looking forward to it, and I was like, I want to tell the world what my dad feels, means to me. And I think some is the first great-grandchild is going to be born. Jessica's due in September. And I think my dad never got to, and my dad loved kids. My dad loved babies. Babies were, he loved all kids, but especially babies. From the first, my niece is 30, she's like 31, down to Bobby, who's 20, that whole baby stage. My dad, I have pictures of my dad holding my niece, because my sister lived at home when she had my niece. I have pictures of my dad holding my niece in his recliner, feeding her. And my mom has pictures of my dad rolling down a grassy hill with
Oh.
Bobby.
Yeah.
And that's just my dad. That, he was very hands-on with the grandkids. And I think with a new baby being born into our family, the youngest is Bobby will be 21 in November, and now they have their first great grandchild. But I know that it's probably my dad this may sound crazy to some people, but I saw this on a onesie and I thought this is 100% true. It says handpicked for Earth by my great grandpa in heaven.
Oh, that's adorable.
So of course I had to get the onesie, and if she never puts it on the baby, it's totally fine. It's just something for like a memento,
Mhm.
because she loved my dad. Jessica loved my dad, and that was when Zach got married. That was one thing that was very important. She asked Zach, who was the one person in your family that you want me to meet? And he said, my hero, my grandpa.
Mhm. I'm so glad that you mentioned mementos because I wanted to ask you. I want to do something for you if you're open to it. So when my father died,
Mhm.
I got in contact with this organization. It's called the Shiva Organization, and I had a tree planted in his honor in Israel. And I would like to do that for you, for your dad. But and you can get with me afterwards if you want to. But we don't even know his name. I don't know if you want to tell us his name.
I would actually. It's there. There's a story behind my dad's name. My
Okay.
dad's name is Iris.
Mhm.
Which is not something you hear of a man's name, but my grandfather's name was Ira.
Uh-huh.
And my grandmother did not want to name my dad Junior
Mhm.
because there was a lady down the street when she was pregnant with my dad. A lady that lived down the street would yell out her door every afternoon for her son to come home, and she would yell Junior.
Mhm.
And she did not want to name my dad Junior, so she added 2 letters at the end
Aw.
to make it the closest thing to my grandfather's name.
Aw. Well, yeah,
So,
I need to get his full name from you, and then when we end, I can get your mailing address. But I'm hoping I've done this a couple times for um, one other girlfriend. She just lost her dad a few months ago, and then a few other people in my family. But I'm hoping that they're putting them all together so that
mhm,
my dad's not lonely in his little area with his tree.
yeah.
Um, but you'll receive a certificate from them that, I'll do a little write up for you. Tell me what you want to put in it, or I can just write up what I usually do, and they'll send that to you, and then you'll have that, and you can display that. But um, I know we're coming up on an hour. We're gonna wrap up, but I just want to thank you so much for, like, you know, this lady that I've never met in person sends me a message. Will you do an interview with me about your dad? I'm just grateful that you agreed to do it because um, I think there's healing in that. I think that there's
Mhm.
something to telling the story as opposed to like just writing it, and doing posts. That there's something about talking about it that's
Yes.
not only therapeutic for you, but also it tells the story differently. And we both have education backgrounds in education, and so, it sets differently sometimes when you hear it.
And somebody that understands,
Hmm.
because that's what's hard is when somebody has not been through it and doesn't understand the emotion and everything that you go through.
And how it's not a straight line. It's
Mhm.
like and it can go on forever. My
Yeah.
dad, like a few days before he died, he still missed his father, when he was young, when his father passed away. So it just like never goes away, I don't think.
No, I don't think it does either.
I think you learn to cope with it and keep living, but we don't ever want to forget them. And so thank you for coming on here with me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And I feel honored that I'm the first one.
The first one, and I'm so grateful. And so I'm gonna go ahead. I'll end the live, and then we'll chit chat for a few more minutes, and I'll let you go enjoy your Saturday night. But anybody who catches this, take time to listen, and just if you still have your father, be grateful. And if you don't, and you're struggling, just know that there's others that are going through the same thing. And if you want to share and talk about your father's story, your hero, just send me a DM. I know I have at least 5 other girlfriends that are like in the same boat. And maybe you're not open to share right now because it's still kind of fresh, but I want to try to do this often just so that I can keep, in honor of my own dad. So, anyway, everybody have a wonderful evening, and I will be back again. I'm not sure when, but I will be back. So we'll see you. Have a good night. Heather, just hang on a second, okay?